So
We're
do you
good.
want me to
We're
change
ready.
it now?
I'm gonna try and change the, I'll have to do it different.
We'll call the city council budget meeting to order for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, 6:30 PM to order. First item on the agenda is public hearing on the 2020 annual city budget. Nicole?
Okay, Mr. President, councilors, I have a brief presentation on the budget as it stands right now. And then it is a public hearing, and then you can also discuss any possible changes. At this point, you can't increase the levy, but you can make changes to decrease the levy. So this is just kind of the culmination of the budget process to date. We started in May working on some of these numbers. We've had a bunch of work sessions. We've gone from a 15.78% levy increase to a 4.2% is the preliminary levy that we filed with the county. We'll have to file the final levy amount by December 30th. So we'll set that amount at the next council meeting, unless for some reason we need to continue this meeting until next Tuesday. So this first slide just goes through, just kind of summarizes some of the revenues that we use and where those come from. You can see that the largest portion of our revenue, of course, comes from property taxes, and then the second from the local government aid. And the PUC pays a large portion too in lieu of taxes. This slide also indicates the use of fund balance as a source of revenue. So, and we'll go through what some of those uses are on some future slides here.
I got a question. Are they using?
Oh, I'm sorry. I get used to the one
That's
screen.
okay. I just wanted to make sure because
Yep.
the
Same
public.
question, okay.
I've got my notes here.
Yeah, that's fine.
So this was the slide I was just talking about, and then the next slide it just shows it broken down a little bit different, and it gives you a kind of a picture so you can see better how some of that revenue is distributed or where it comes from. And then this slide here goes through some of the expenditures. It breaks it down by some of the departments and the functions of those departments. Not a lot of huge changes here. We did actually this year break out inspections as a separate department, never been that way before. So that impacted the administration budget a little bit and may impact the engineering budget in the future. It's hard to know where all of those inspection costs were going before. There was some big changes in the personnel services this year. We have a 3% wage increase, but the health insurance dropped we budgeted a 12% decrease. So that was a huge impact on that cost. And then we've also added in the dental contribution from the employer. This again just breaks it down into a picture, kind of gives you a better idea of where those expenses are coming from, who's spending the money. You can see that, of course, Public Works and Public Safety are two of the biggest departments as far as expenditures, if you don't count the debt service. And then Park and Rec, between the rec centers and the community centers and the parks is up there with those as well. And then this slide just gives you kind of a historical look at where the budget has been over the last 7 years, going back to 2014. You can see the expenditures, even though they've gone down. I mean, since 2016, we're still lower than where we were in 2016. In 16 and 17, we made some large land purchases that really impacted the budgets those years. And then you can see even with some of the increases in the changes over the years, with the changes in tax capacity and property values, our tax rate is still proposed to be lower than what it was in 2016.
Say that again, Nicole? What you just said?
So even though the levy amount has gone up overall in the last 7 years, with the increases in tax capacity and the market values of all the homes in the city, our tax rate has actually gone down from where it was in 2016.
Okay. Thank you.
This slide's always kind of interesting. I know it's probably harder to see with all the numbers on there, but this really breaks it down. And the numbers on this slide are all based on the average market value for a home within the city, and I get those numbers from the county. This year, the 2019 average market value was about $146,000. So based on that last column at the end would give you an idea of where your money's going when you pay your property taxes. on an annual or on a monthly basis. So the average person pays $13.45 a month to have the police department. Is kind of where this slide goes. This one's just interesting. It just compares the different property values and how those different values affect the tax amounts that people may pay in. It compares four different values across town. Of course, it doesn't account for the change in market value. So in 2018, if you had a $75,000 home, it's probably valued at $82,000 now. So you're going to pay a little higher than what this slide shows. But okay, the next few slides really are probably the core part of the discussion tonight. This first one shows you the items that are included in the tax levy or in the preliminary levy that are kind of in addition to just the normal everyday expenses that we need to keep everything running. So I'll go through the list real quick here. We have included contribution or half of the needed money for the pedestrian ramps that are included in the 2020 project. Half of that's coming from the levy, half of it's coming from fund balance at this point in time. And that's about $50,000. The dental premiums, the employer contribution, is about $20,000. The zoning plan update right now sits at $20,000. The city contribution to bus route at this point is $15,000. We have $50,000 budgeted for Christmas decorations. And then the change in the fire department, change into a paid-on-call system, will cost about an additional $40,000. And then the last four items are all sinking fund items. We've got $25,000 getting put away for a new battery building, $200,000 going into a capital improvement fund for streets, $195,000 going into the fire equipment replacement fund for all the fire equipment, and then the city building renovation fund, we've got $375,000 going in there. So these will be the items that are probably really more up for discussion or change if you choose. The next slide just looks at what we're using fund balance for. So looking at our existing funds, what are we taking out of there and for what reason? We've got $17,000 coming out for carpet replacement at the fire station and $115,000 coming out of that building renovation fund for the Riverside Park ADA compliance project. And then in addition to that, within 290, there are several other funds that are set aside and reserved for specific reasons. Right now, there's about $250,000 in there for the amphitheater, and those are all previous donations and city contributions. And then we're going to use $260,000 in a capital that's been set aside in a capital improvement fund since about 2007. So that will help reduce that bonding amount so that we can meet the assessment requirements. And then this last slide just shows what we're planning to use fund balance for. And so we've got $30,000 coming out for the street department. They plan to purchase the new pump and share that cost with the PUC. That's $30,000. We've got, as I said before, half of the pedestrian ramps is $50,000, and then $70,000 coming out of the general fund balance for the Herman Hillside project. And that is all the information that I have at this point.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Nicole? Concerns or discussions or anything on the budget?
Do we want to go through each one and talk about them? Or,
I don't know if we need to unless somebody has something they want to
I don't have anything in particular, but I'd like to
highlight
see
it
it
or
get
whatever.
under.
I guess I'll make one comment, and I think it's just general knowledge is our parks budget is high, and it always will be high, and it will get higher, but I just did some calculating here based on our budget, and I'm just using numbers out of the sky, but we're somewhere in the area of about $350 for every household in this town for our parks department. And if anybody thinks it's going down, you got another guess coming, because with our renew projects, it's going to get higher. So just so everybody is aware.
So do you have a suggestion based on that
Nope,
comment?
there's nothing we could do. Sorry about that.
All right,
It's just, they voted for it, just want to make them aware.
And the one comment I've heard from a couple of people, and I believe our finance director can do a better job than I can of explaining, LGA, we went through the ups and downs and whatnot, but I know there's a formula for each department, how much LGA they get, correct?
Yep.
Could you explain that to the public? I've been asked, and I said, we'll get the answer.
It's based on their budgeted expenses. So so once we have all the expenses, we add them all up, and based on your portion of those expenses, that's how much of the LGA you get.
The way if you look at your budgeted in the preliminary revenues fund and source, like the general fund gets 3 million, park department gets 900, almost 900,000, and then the capital improvement, just so they know where those dollars go.
Nicole, can you remind me, I'm looking at our biggest ticket item here that potentially could change, is the city building renovation fund at 375,000.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about what we've done the last couple of years and remind me?
Looking at that building renovation fund specifically.
I know we have some older city buildings that gotta have upkeep, but I don't know
Oh, I don't have those on here.
how much we need in that account.
I have that account stretched out over until the year 2041 at this point.
Okay?
And we've kind of looked at what some of the major projects are. We have a general idea. Even going out to 2041, we're still going to have 2.3 million in there based on an annual contribution of 375. So if we stay, we're at 375 this year. So if we continue that contribution every year, that fund stays healthy based on
Right.
anticipated projects.
And
There's
that's,
some potential movement here if we had to. I mean, would you recommend if we were gonna make any cuts to try and get that percentage down? This might be one of the main areas.
That would be the easiest one.
in my mind, the easiest question, but like construction costs averaging 10%, 12% a year, is that all calced into this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we actually, when we budget for those items, we actually put in a 5% increase every year, so.
Well, and you think, if you fast forward, think with technology moving and how our whole workstation world could be so different in 10
Right.
years from now. And that could be fairly expensive, but I think I'd like to see something cut a little bit in that category.
Nicole, in past years, do we have a history? What did we give last year? I mean, have we done a steady 375 over the past 5 years?
No, historically, that's the first account to get cut.
What did we put in last year?
We put in, I want to say I actually left it last year at 395.
Oh, wow.
Can't remember for sure.
So if we shaved off 100, that would bring it down to
That would bring the levy
3.6?
percent, it would bring it down to about 3.1.
3.1.
And
Every 77,000 you cut from the levy amount will bring it down about,
I'm not saying we have to do that, but that
1%.
might be one area I'd be thinking about. Bus route question, are we, 15,000, is that for an entire year? Because obviously, we're not gonna start that on January 1st, or is that a 6-month cost?
That was
That's,
the study.
that's just the study
Oh, that's
to
just
get the
study.
route.
That's right, okay. I thought we were ready to go on that.
Nope, that's just
All
the
right,
study
thank
portion
you.
of it.
Well, I'm just looking at here, are we doubling up because we have the city building renovation fund, but then we have a new battery building sinking fund?
That-
Could we just take that under the city
well, we
fund?
could move that into the 290 funds with everything else, but we would still need that extra 25,000 because it wasn't included in the potential projects or capital.
Do we know what
projects
our
going forward.
guesstimate total cost on that? I mean, it's basically not an extravagant building, so it's not a huge cost, but is it
I thought right now we were
What
gonna
was it?
just caulk the roof up and seal it and.
75.
And I believe that's been
Yeah.
done.
right, and then throw some money at it in 3
And
years?
then we're gonna be.
75,000 or
Okay.
so.
So I think we
Right.
planned on setting money aside for the
Yeah.
next 3 years,
And then-
right? Did we
yeah.
do 3 years?
Yeah, we patched the roof this year, which should get us some time, and then so we can build the fund up.
How much do we have in our building fund again, city renovation fund?
Right now, we have, as of August 15th, we had 2.2 million.
And one of the larger ones is the fire replacement fund.
That one's separate, that's another, they have 1.1 million.
And what do we have coming up for large equipment?
In 2022, we need to buy new bunker gear for 141,000. The next big truck is in 2027, that's about 280,000 is what we have in here.
We have how much in there now?
280,000. And then in 2031, engine 31, we have about $1 million will cost.
So a truck like that is gonna be, what do you think? I know, they're not going down in price, I'm sure of that.
No, I think we built in a 5% on
We
that
built in
too as well.
5% from the last purchase.
But we need to remember, you know, they might not make it 30 years that we have them proposed at,
Right, that's true.
okay? We also, if you remember back in 2011, we received a FEMA grant for our radios. I think just for the fire department alone was like $130,000. Okay, those radios, like I said, we did that in 2010, and we started using them in 2011, and in 2018, they no longer make parts for them. Now, we haven't had much trouble with them, and you know, they're clicking along just fine, but, you know, I foresee the day where, you know, we're gonna have to replace those as well.
Yeah, I guess I
So we need to
don't
keep
see
those
it cut
in
in the fire
mind.
department.
Yeah.
We've done that too many times. It's the easy one to
But that
grab.
one we've trimmed pretty close. I wouldn't cut
Yeah,
any more.
no.
Yeah,
No.
I agree with that too, because then I think the equipment is only gonna get more and more.
Yeah, well, I think when we purchased those, the handheld radios at that time, I think we paid roughly $2,500 a piece for them. They're already up to $4,750.
I know we don't really have any decisions on Christmas decorations, and this number 50,000 just got kind of thrown in there, and,
I mean,
and,
And realistically, if you want to drop that to 40 or 30,
oh, I was
I'll
thinking,
work
I-
do we have to go the other way?
I really don't think you're gonna get much for 50,000.
No,
I
I don't
really, if you've looked at them and looked at the price of them, I think that you're not gonna,
It depends on what we go to.
Yeah.
right, and you
Starting from
know,
scratch. We don't know what
So-
we're doing, but
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
think we
probably a
need to
good
leave it.
start,
Yeah.
you know,
You have to
but
have a
I,
baseline.
Mm-hmm.
If we
Yeah.
don't put it in now, we're not
I
gonna
just
put
worry
it
that it
in
might not
later.
be enough, but.
Okay.
So if we're gonna buy something for the next 10 or 20 years, you wanna get something decent and it's gonna last, and
Dave, how much did we spend on the
Whatever
Christmas
that might
tree
be.
just in general? Outside. 5,000? Less than
Between 5
5?
and 6, wasn't it, I thought?
what's that?
Between
5
5
and
and
6
6,
for
I
the
thought.
tree outside.
Tree out here.
You guys, realistically, what the plan temporarily, you know, is essentially each tree on the corners to be wrapped with lights. You know, again, not super expensive, and then wreaths with lights on every other pole. So I think we count like 5 poles on each block. So I mean, it's not going to be significantly huge. So I think 50,000 should be able to cover that, especially if we order it sooner rather than later. You know, you get a larger discount ordering the ornaments. I think it's like 50% discount if we do it. in,
What
like, the
committee is
first
working on
quarter.
that?
So working with Downtown Action Team, the chamber.
So go in the day after Christmas and buy lights.
well, and there may be room for donations.
Donate,
You
and
know,
then,
you never know who picks up the
You know,
project. and-
and looking at it forward, maybe this is, you know, a temporary 3-year thing that we do, you know, potentially looking at different options for
Right.
maybe bringing back the garland, you know, and doing poles instead of off buildings and things like that. I mean, not off the table, but this will at least give us time to do the research
Yeah.
to look at, you know, bringing back the tradition that people like. Something in the meantime, so it's still festive down here.
So if, I'm just throwing this out here, if we took 125 off the city building fund, would that get us under 3? Be like 2.9? Right?
Might be close. Let me find, got that
So-
spreadsheet here.
Is that the actual impact? Or is that
So,
that's the levy, but what's with the tax capacity, does that, what are we sitting at? Is that the 2.526? No? I'm sorry, then I must be wrong.
and
Oh, that's just the change per year.
trying to get the spreadsheet to fit on my screen right. Can plug in.
No, that'd be right.
If you reduce that by 100,000, that gets us to a 2.97% increase.
That's what you want.
I could live with
Go
that.
for it.
Well, I know the number sounds good, but being the one that used to have to deal with that, coming in to ask council, my HC just went out over at the library, I need 95,000. Park department comes in, luckily it did only come in at what, $700,000-800,000? I just hope none of those big items come before us, like, God, I wish, or future councils, like, man, I wish they wouldn't have cut that, that was the big place to cut. Because it'll come out of our fund balance, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Just a note, I mean, I'm all right with it,
And
but
where
just,
we at our fund balance
Fund
again?
balance is, so based on the preliminary levy and the usage that we had budgeted, the fund balance at the end of 2020 will be just over, or just under 55%.
So we're still in that
it's
good,
real strong.
we're still in that good spot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I won't let you do it next year.
And if we,
Yeah, we were like 1.9 a couple years ago.
we're still gonna have 2 million plus in our building fund, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I don't think we'd be hurting all that bad by
No.
By one
going
year.
yeah, just do it for
1
1
year.
year and.
Now, where are we taking that? I mean, what if we don't run short on German Park? Is that gonna come out of fund balance then?
That would have to come out of fund
Mhm.
balance, yeah.
Just a reminder,
Right.
you know.
We can use about 550,000 of fund balance before we're down to that 50% mark. We're recommended to be between 35 and 50%.
Tom, where we at with funds on German Park? Donations?
The report only went up to 2000, or September 2019. It didn't have those big ones we just got.
Yeah, that's why I want to know if you know what number we're at.
Well, I think Nicole has it also, but, you know, the total project cost, you know, may be close to 1.2 million, including design and contingency and so on.
And that includes the shade structure, right?
That also includes the unauthorized shade structure.
Includes it, but we
Yes,
gutted it.
1.2 would include the shade structure.
Okay.
And we've got little under 400 grand yet to raise.
I've got 355, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even with our big donations, that's where we sit.
Yeah, yep, we're still
Right.
looking for 300 and,
So if you take out the 57,000 we've spent to date so far, available for construction right now, if the pledges are all guaranteed, just under 787,000.
So we're a little over halfway there.
But what about the shade structure? I thought
But
we
yeah.
decided not
That-
to put that down
Right.
later.
Yeah, but that's not, but so we have 787,000 available for construction. I don't remember what the shade structure brought that 1.2
Yeah,
million
how
down
much was
to.
this shades?
that was a little over 200,000.
So to complete it without the shade structure, we still need about
200.
200,000.
That's what I thought. We were still at 200, okay. I wasn't sure if one of those large donations shrunk that by another 100, but, okay. And you're convinced we're gonna have that?
Yes, and Friends of German
We
Park
recording this,
are
right? We're recording this?
working hard on finishing up that fundraising.
Okay.
You bet.
Awesome.
It's actually pretty amazing they got 700. It's amazing they got 800,000.
Yeah, they've, in pledges and
huge.
donations to date, we've got $547,000.
That's amazing.
Well, I'll see if we can get us out of here a little early. I'm gonna offer a motion. Oh, shoot, now this wonderful computer just acted up again. What was that, building fund?
City.
Oh, there it is. City Building Renovation Fund, reducing that by 125,000.
I thought it was
125,000?
100,000.
She said
I
100.
said
She did
100 gets us under the
I
2.9.
said 125 the second time,
Well, I said I'd go along with
which would
100.
leave it at 250. That's what would bring it under, that's what you.
I was
No, I
thinking
gave you
100.
100.
She gave
I
us
took
100.
100 out and we got to 2.97.
Calculate me at 125 then.
$2.64.
2.7?
2.64.
Okay, my question then is we always have our levy, and then we always say, but the impact is actually with the tax capacity change, what is the impact, actual impact?
That would, this is estimated, trust me, because
Yeah.
I don't know the county's calculations, not all of them. I've gotten pretty close.
Okay,
That would change the tax rate from, it was proposed at 80.034 based on the preliminary level. It would change the tax rate to 79.97. So it brings it down about 1%.
so the,
Okay, here,
to 1.2,
go to 79 instead of 80. Okay.
or 1.526, like, on this here page, this here, is that,
Yes, that would
that's,
change.
that
So
would
we're
be
that
the
80,
impact.
what is it, 80.34
This
there?
would be the 70.
It actually, because that doesn't include the special districts, would bring the tax rate down to 78.78. So where the 80.034, it changes that rate.
Okay. So the
I
impact
still have a
is
motion
lessened
that I
because of the
have
tax
made, so we
capacity.
shouldn't be, someone should either second the motion or not second the motion.
That's
but
still a slight increase in the tax rate over last year.
Right.
You went to 250?
Yep.
I went to, my motion was to reduce the city building renovation fund to 250,000, bringing that tax levy down to approximately 2.6.
You haven't got a second. Do we have a
I've not
second?
got a second yet. We have people, a lot of elderly in our community that are
we
barely
have a
making it,
second?
and
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? I guess I just got a question, Nicole, and it's probably something you can't answer anyway. But based on our previous, or present year budget and everything, are we gonna have anything left over to put in reserves that we haven't spent?
Yeah, we're doing well this year.
We're doing well?
Yep. We should increase our fund balance by a small amount by the end of the year.
Okay. Then I support it.
I would ask.
All right.
One question for city manager and Nicole. Should we close the public hearing, then do that?
So I probably need to
Ask
redo
if
my
they-
We have,
motion.
huh?
Ask if anyone wants to speak.
Oh, it is a public hearing, that's right. Anybody want to speak? Everybody's so quiet out there.
Clay wants to speak. No? So I'm gonna amend my
Elwood?
So, Mr. President, I'm gonna amend my motion to close the public hearing and approve the revenue and expenditure adjustments that we have already discussed to the preliminary 2020 budget and allow staff flexibility and further minor changes needed arriving at the final individual 2020 budget numbers, which would include that 200 or 125,000 reduction. Okay?
Got it.
Does that still have a second on your end?
Second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Close the public hearing and approve the budget?
Yep, it's in there.
Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no? Motion carries. No more business?
This is-